Hey guys, happy Monday. Welcome back. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the important stuff that happened in Chapter 8 because Chapter 8 is such a huge chapter. It is probably the most important chapter in the entire novel because we have a couple of important things happen. We have the split of the tribe, right? So we have Jack, the older boys, the choir boys split off and they make their own tribe down by the Castle Rock, that fortress down on the beach. Which, is kind of a little boy fantasy, right? It's this big and it's rocks and they've got, he talks about earlier on in a previous chapter, they talk about how they can roll the rocks down on intruders. And it looks like a fortress and it seems a lot more exciting probably than wooden huts on a beach. They're not as worried about rescue or safety or anything like that. They've become totally and utterly consumed by killing, by the hunting, by death. And we see that with the murder of the sow in Chapter 8, right? Where the boys have gotten even more animalistic. It talks about how they are lusting after the blood. Let me pull up that part real quick. So this is on page 135, right? It talks about how the sow staggered her way ahead of them, bleeding and mad, and the hunters followed, wedded to her in lust, excited by the long chase and the dropped blood. Okay, and then Jack attacks it. Jack ends up slitting the throat. The sow collapsed under them. They were heavy and fulfilled upon her. The butterflies still danced preoccupied in the center of the clearing. And then they start to mark themselves with the blood. So we're getting a lot more animalistic. We're getting a lot more violent, a lot more ritualistic as well, which is kind of interesting. And then they leave the gift, right? And this happens to be just outside of the cave where Simon tends to retreat to. Simon's an interesting character, right? A lot of you guys noticed in the chapter 7 or 8 questions, I forget which ones, or 7 questions, I think, about how Simon seems to be more intuitive. He seems to be more understanding. He seems to be more responsible and mature and grown up than the other boys. He's a lot more sensitive. He tries to help Ralph. He tries to make Ralph feel better. He tells him that he's going to make it home. He's going to go back to where he's supposed to be. And it's also possible that he suffers from something like epilepsy, right? Early on in the novel, in the first chapter, Jack dismissively talks about Simon's like fainting fits and how he has those. And then in the cave, he has hallucinations where the head on the stick actually begins to talk to him. So Lord of the Flies, right, which is the title of the novel, and also where we finally get to see the Lord of the Flies, which is that head, the sow head on the stick, covered by those black flies, which is such a gross and upsetting image. So Lord of the Flies is an allusion to Beelzebub, right, which is a demon. And it starts to talk to him, and he says, Simon is starting to lead. This is on page 143. Okay. Simon's head wobbled. His eyes were half closed as though he were imitating the obscene thing on the stick. He knew that one of his times was coming on, right? Probably a fit from epilepsy. The Lord of the Flies was expanding like a balloon. This is ridiculous. You know perfectly well you'll only meet me down there. So don't try to escape. And then a little further up on the page, he says, you knew, didn't you? Or sorry, fancy thinking the beast was something you could hunt and kill, said the head. For a moment or two, the forest and all the other dimly appreciated places echoed with the parody of laughter. You knew, didn't you? I'm part of you. Close, close, close. I'm the reason why it's no-go, why things are what they are. So this really taps into the theme, right, of this novel, this idea that there is no beast. There is nothing scary on this island. The only terrifying thing on this island is the boys themselves. They are the only thing that there is to fear. They are the only monsters that are hiding out there. And they're not hiding in the jungle. It's hiding just deep within themselves, just waiting to come out. And already we're starting to see that come out, right, with the violence that we mentioned earlier with the pigs and things like that. So Chapter 9, A View to a Death, is also obviously a very important chapter, as I'm sure you can guess. We'll talk more about that in the next couple of days when you guys read Chapter 9. But just know that this is already setting up kind of an important thing here. So you've got some Chapter 8 cheaper reading questions that you're going to be answering, just like we have been. These are going to be a little bit more difficult than the reading comprehension questions. They're going to be more analytical and stuff like that, but you should be able to answer them pretty well. If you have any questions, of course, always hop on Zoom rather, or email me, and I'll be glad to help you guys out. All right, bye.